All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sitting here with a very, very, I don't even know how to describe this man. He has done so many different entrepreneurial endeavors since I've known him over the past few months. I'm sitting here with Mario Mitchell. He is the lead ambassador of Bunker Labs Vegas. If you guys heard the podcast with Dave Berlin, they are both in this same space that deals with entrepreneurship with military veterans, and he is also onto a new endeavor. He is the ecosystem developer for the Dear Mama Fund. Funds, VCs, a lot of money and capital is trying to find its way out here to Las Vegas and invest in the local scene. So we get to sit here and talk with one of the men who is helping fortify that startup nature of Las Vegas. So Mario, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Seriously, you're probably one of the most, we'll say, allocated entrepreneurs that I've met in Las Vegas. I think you've done probably like 10 to 15 different endeavors since we've begun to know each other and over the past few years. So I think this is an easy starting place because we probably won't be able to cover everything. But just give us a little bit of context and a brief description of who Mario Mitchell is, what are your entrepreneurial aspirations, and how you ended up with Bunker Labs and Dear Mama Fund.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. So basically, Mario the man, I'm more of a dad than anything. I really just want to do things to inspire my kids to want to be their greater selves. So I don't limit myself to things that people tell me I can't do. So you tell me I can't do something, and I'm like, okay, bet, like challenge accepted. And that's how I tend to do a lot of things. So you said like 15, it's probably up there. But I think I like to fight against the odds. So when I entered the military, the one thing that he says, like, hey, you're underweight. You know, like I was 120 pounds. I could have done any job I wanted to. And when you tell me, my mom didn't want me to do anything that was going to put me in a combat zone, like, okay, whatever. I was 17 and a half, so she had to sign off and give permission. So I'm like, I got to listen to my mom at the end of the day. I did what I wanted to do when I got into the military. And that's when I realized, like, I'm living a path that someone's drawn out for me. In the military, you pretty much, from E1 to E9, if that's life you choose to do, you know what you're going to do that whole career. You know where it's going to go. You can't swing left or right. That's it. I didn't want that. I'm a rebel. I like to disrupt things. You tell me I have to do something, I have to do it. Like, I can't push back on it. I don't want to do it anymore. So when I got out, I had a couple options. I could have become a police officer. I could have done security, worked in a hotel.
It's like the standard, like the standard entry post-military.
Exactly. And I didn't want to do any of that. I was like, I'm young. Like, I took the police exam. I actually passed, but I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not where I see my life. So I entered the world of technology. I went to V School. V School is up in Salt Lake City. So the journey there was...
What's it called? V School?
V School. So Victor School.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So the journey there was hard because we just had my son was about 3 at the time. My wife was pregnant with the twins. And like, I had to journey from Vegas to Salt Lake City Monday through Friday and then come back home on the weekends. I had a part-time job then. I had a part-time job, so I worked over the weekend. So the hustle was always going. It wasn't the best of times, but I got through it. I persevered through it because people thought I was going to burn out. It's like, bet, challenge accepted. Finished the program, did some cool things in technology, and I was like, I want to start my own business. I'm tired of answering to people. So me and my buddy, David, he got out the Army, and we started a little marketing business. Wound up, it was cool. Marketing is hard. Like, there's a lot of things to
Marketing is extremely tough, and it is very saturated.
It is. That was the problem. So I was like, whatever. I actually walked into Punch Co., which is a nonprofit actually downtown, and I met the director, and I told him, like, I always had a vision of running my own coding school because I always thought I could do things better, especially the fact that I was in Salt Lake City. And I went there open-minded, like, I'm going to see more than just 3 black people here. I think I only saw 3 people. I was like, what's going on here? So come back down here, and I saw the opportunity. They was like, hey, we need someone to run this program. I was like, okay, bet, let's do it. Normally, traditionally, they held the spot for like people with degrees and everything. I was like, people with degrees don't know the commitment levels needed to actually do this. So I got the shot to the program from red to green. did very, very well, but then I realized my vision of helping the Black community actually enter tech was not in line with that nonprofit. So I decided to leave and, start my own coding school, which I did. Had great success there. And I was like, I want to do more. So it's always a challenge of pushing myself to do more. So I said in the last 10 years, I just turned 30 last month. Last 10 years, I think I achieved all the things I wanted to do without having a degree to hold me back. Next 10 years, I'm looking to work and make all the money I can, because in my 40s, my kids will be in their teens and I want to travel with them. So this I never did growing up.
That makes sense. They say in your 20s too is where you build the most staunch foundation for yourself. You go through many trials and errors. This is something that I've done with the various endeavors that I've divulged myself into, as well as you getting into coding and going to Salt Lake and Bunker Labs and some of these other things. What type of skills do you think you built throughout your entire 20s?
Oh, so my superpower, everyone tells me, is I'm a very fearless person. I would talk to anyone and everyone. Like, I live this thing where you can tell me one or two things. Hey, Jake, you want to work with me? You only can tell me yes or no. You say I can't do anything about that. Go on to the next. Like, there's another person that has similar skills that I want to learn or, get to know, and I can just get that from somewhere else. I don't let things hold me back. But being able to speak and be outspoken, I think growing up with my mom, and she, I was the oldest, and I have two younger brothers, but her being a single, woman, she had to work. She had to often bite her tongue sometimes because she needs to maintain a job. I was like, I never want to be like that growing up, right? And she gave me the power, I would get in trouble, but I can speak my mind. So I'm very opinionated, and if it's things I believe in, I'm going to make sure that because if we're going to work together and you say something I don't like, I want to bring that out there. So I'm very open with my beliefs and things I want to do and things I want to accomplish. So just being able to put myself in front of people that can help me make change or, inspire me to want to make change is something that I've never been afraid to do. And that's one thing I've learned in my 20s is no is not the end of all. No, it's just once again, challenge yourself a bit. I'm going to go find the things I need to become successful in it.
If you're not direct as an entrepreneur, you probably won't find success, whether you're being direct with your co-founder or your staff, or even just being direct with yourself and understanding where your limitations are of your capabilities. True. And knowing who you need to lean on to supplement your weakness for their strength and vice versa. And that just comes with the experience. And you took the route of not having to go to traditional school, right? To go through entrepreneurship. And to me, that's the right path because it's all based off of experience. They don't teach you the mental hurdles and the emotional strain and the drain on your mental capacity and some of these non-tangential things that happen through entrepreneurship that you literally can't experience. Even if somebody tells you what's going to happen, for me personally, I have to go through it myself to understand the emotions and the ties and how I'm feeling, because the way that they felt going through some sort of process is not going to be the same exact is not going to have the same amount of mental capacity and strain on me as them and vice versa. So you never really know until you continue to put yourself out there.
Exactly. No, and I agree with that. People told me, I would never forget this, Sergeant Smelts. She was my first sergeant. And I said, I wanted to lead the military. She's like, you're crazy. Why would you want to leave the comfort of having a job to go out there in the world? I also at the time was playing a lot of video games. Assassin's Creed was my jam. And they always talked about the leap of faith. I was like, yeah, I'm just taking a leap of faith. If I continue doing what you're doing, you've been in this for 14 years, and you're still, sitting as master sergeant. There are people making far more money out there. They have better retirement plans. I'm stuck in the military. So, I was like, I want to go and experience everything you're telling me that can go wrong. Let me have that moment because I am young and I can always bounce back. And I think a lot of things, especially being part of Bunker, people live for the money. I'm an entrepreneur, but I don't want to make certain decisions because I don't want to affect the money. It's once again, you will never know how successful you truly are if you don't take risks. In my opinion, everyone thinks differently, but I think entrepreneurship is all about taking risks. This is the way where you get to make the decisions and do things you want them to be done. Or else, if we ever want to operate like Google, Facebook, use their SOPs and do things the way they did things.
Yeah, no matter how high paying a job is, whether you're a software developer at Google making $200,000-$300,000, you're still participating in wage slavery. You're still renting out your time for your skills that has a linear growth path, maybe a few bonuses that can change the linear trajectory. But in order to have generational wealth, you need to have equity in something, whether it's investing in some sort of commodities or assets or building equity within yourself in your own business. You never really can have that true experience. So this is the way that the internet has opened up the utility for all of us like us to brand ourselves and then basically have 100% equity in everything that we do that other people want to invest in, and things like crypto now opens access to the average investor to invest in smaller things that they typically didn't have access to in the traditional world. So
exactly,
this is the way that we've been moving.
And that's the cool part. Like, you look back, like when I was growing up in the 90s, like, you know, the way things are now is like, yo, we got computers in all schools. Like, that's a thing. I remember I just go there and play solitaire, or the little the brick one, the brick attack one. I used to play that, and I'm like, yo, this is dope. And then I look at what my kids are going to have going to school. Like, iPads are issued in some schools, like standard. The libraries are handing out iPads. I'm like, what happens to just go in the library and get a book? You know, we used to computers to go to chat rooms when we were kids in the library. Now, like, you actually see kids building things. I'm like, where was these opportunities at when I was growing up?
Yeah, they have like Roblox in their classroom, Minecraft. Some of these.
Minecraft. My son just showed me some armor or something that he built. I'm like, oh, that's dope. Don't ask me to play because I don't know how to do anything. I try watching YouTube videos, and it's cool to see the advancements. Once again, like, I want my kids to always be better, so I'm always get them to things, and that's why I go out and do all the outreach stuff that I do, because I think the education, once again, most people think to get out of poverty, you need to go get a 4-year degree. I'm like, that's wrong, because I was in poverty, and I don't have a 4-year degree, and I don't live in it anymore. And it's all through work ethic, and that's one thing people miss. Like, you go sit and you're in books all day. Colleges are still making you like prove your work ethic. They give you all this homework, and people think I'm doing this for a piece of paper. No, they're actually giving you a skill that you can learn anywhere else. You go get 3 retail jobs. Work ethic.
Work ethic, obedience, consistency, grit, willpower. Those are all applied in entrepreneurship and also in the labor force as well.
Sure.
But a trend that I've been seeing now is with the open accessibility of how technology has been transforming. The entrepreneurs are becoming younger and younger and younger. I see entrepreneurs now literally still in high school making tens of thousands of dollars or sometimes even more. And for some of the older generation, or even some that are our age, they're a little salty surrounding it because they didn't have that opportunity. But those who have an entrepreneur mindset have to capitalize on that immediately and say, like, that's good that these people got in early. You know, they're younger. This is the way that society is progressing. But now it's my turn to capitalize on these new things that have been introduced into the market. As you are somebody who works with entrepreneurs in a few different businesses, obviously with a fund, you're actively investing in different things and communicating with entrepreneurs, but also with Bunker Labs Vegas, which deals with veterans who are working to get into entrepreneurship. For those who haven't listened to the episode with Dave Berlin, who you work with, can you give us a description of what Bunker Labs is?
Yeah, so for starters, people assume Bunker Labs is for veterans, and I tell them no, it's not. It's for anyone that really, so military spouses, they're a veteran. Like, they serve just like anyone else. As well as people that like just give their time to the military community. So we are a community project that helps and serves people that really cater and give time, and they're passionate about helping the military community. But we are, I'm also going to consider us an incubator of sorts. We're not a full incubator because you don't really drive you to money, but we're a community that helps drive you into your entrepreneurial journey. So you leave the military, you don't know what you want to do, but you want to start something of your own. That's the only thing you know. Great. Go to bunkerlabs.org, and you can go to our learning lab, and this is Lunch Lab Online. You guys should get to learn what entrepreneurship truly is. And like, that's the first start of that. What we do here, which I love, is we have what we call a Veterans Resident Program. That's a bread and butter of this. You took the time to learn, build, do a business model, canvas, all the other cool stuff. What do you do with that? Well, once you get your business license, you have that product ready to go. You apply for on the VR. You come through, you talk to someone like me. I let you know, like, yeah, you're ready for this, or you need a little bit of work, but I'm never going to send you out and just say no. VRR is in partnership with WeWork. We actually give you 6 months of free workspace. The workspace is cool, but the best part about it is the community. So we're in 32 different states, and we got chapters all around there. So the community is bigger. So you come in, you need a designer. I can guarantee you can find you a veteran designer that's not going to charge you an arm and a leg to get your product out there that you truly need, because they cost money and you're in the startup phases. So having that community as you start growing as an entrepreneur is very important, and no one understands veterans' anxiety, any type of PTSD or anything on the disability side unless you're in that community. So we can really help launch those careers. Well, not careers, but launch those dreams of veterans, and give them the permissions to say yes. Like, I'm taking my time in my life, and I'm gonna go the direction I want to go by taking that leap of faith and start my own business. And the side hustle, Todd Connors, he started the Bunker. Now he's the founder. He wrote a book called Third Shift Entrepreneur. And I actually love it because it's all about, you're working a job while building your dream. So you may work a 9 to 5, but 6, because you want to give yourself the hour to travel and everything else. But 6 to 1, you're building your dream. And once that dream kind of comes back and you're making what you're making of your job, that's how you know you're on the right path. And Bunker kind of embraces all that.
So as somebody who is involved with Bunker pretty regularly, or even so daily, and somebody who also made that transition from a stable military job into the inconsistencies of the entrepreneur world, why do you think it is that veterans want to leave this stable lifestyle to pursue something that has so much instability that the majority of them don't make it?
Once again, I don't speak for everyone, but for me, I think the fact that I can make mistakes and not have to be reprimanded around it. Oh, you just lost $100,000. I just lost $100,000. I get that. I understand that. But when in the military, there's far more consequences with that. So you're a pawn for the government, but you don't really get to make mistakes and truly grow, because you're afraid to make those decisions because there's a consequence behind it and you can't live freely. So a lot of people actually just want to come out and do the what ifs. What if I tried this? What if I wanted to turn right instead of going left? And then like seeing the consequences yourself, as you said earlier, that's what we all really want, but you can't really do. I joined at a very young age, so not being able to make my decisions. I would tell you this. I went to a college party with my wife. She was going to UCSB. We was in Ala Vista, Party Central, and I didn't know how to act at the party because I was so like in tune with anything I did at that moment. It come back to me in the military, and like if I got arrested at that party, great, I got arrested. But then I got to go back to the base, and depending on what the offense is, I might get arrested again. Right, get arrested twice for the same punishment. It's just not cool to have like a lot of things that you kind of want to experience you can't experience when you have so many barriers. So when people get out, they're like, I get to do all my first. I've done a lot of my first from 25 to 30, and I would say I don't regret not one. So.
Would you say there was an incubation period from leaving the military to finding, we'll say, your groove or your voice or your chemistry within entrepreneurship? Because as we know, the military is heavily regimented. Everything is organized and divided up to the nearest second or minute or however it is. But with entrepreneurship, it's completely the opposite. You try to be organized and create these roadmaps and things that you want to follow, but never goes that way. And within a few months, you have to pivot multiple directions. How long would you say it took you to transition from that military mindset to that entrepreneur mindset?
So, and I would say people do this differently. Like I was young when I got out. And for me, my brain just wasn't fully developed in the ways because I was such a disruptor and a rebel that I just never really did. I always try to do what I wanted to do. But it took me, I must say, from the time I decided to become an entrepreneur, I would say 3 months. And that's just because I knew I wanted to do. And I really had to build up for the buy-in from my wife because I'm like, yeah, we're not going to be making money for a while, And we decided to have a kid, which we only had one at a time, so it wasn't as stressful. But as times came up, I was like, it's the best decision ever because yeah, I miss the stability of having things on my calendar. I suck at putting things on my calendar to this day. Like,
Don't we all?
but like they did that. Like, hey, you have everything lined up by the minute in the military, including doctor's appointments. I can say, hey, I'm gonna go do this doctor appointment. We know it's gonna be an hour long. I hardly go to the doctor today, even an entrepreneur, because I don't have the time because I'm always overbooking myself. So I do miss like that stability of like having something set, but I also love the freedom. Like I miss it, but I don't want to do it. I love the freedom because like, oh, from 1 to 2, I'm gonna be doing this podcast with Jake. I'm not gonna schedule anything else. 5 minutes before I was on the phone, like, hey, yeah, I got 5 minutes to talk, right? But you know, I made those choices. And I think that was like the best decision. It took me 3 months to find my voice because I was so confused. But once I found it, I never looked back and I kept rolling with it.
That is incredible. And so what was the introduction into Bunker Labs? Was this something that was discussed within the military while you were there? Was it just something that you looked up while you're out here in Las Vegas? How did you find your way to it?
So Bunker didn't exist until I brought it to Vegas, like out here. But I was actually in New York along my journey of trying to find like technology. My first ever opportunity I did was code immersions in New York. So I went out there because I was using my military benefits. I was getting like almost $5,000 in BH. So I'm like, yo, go out there and learn, get $5,000. Stay in
what is that, like a stipend?
Yes. So you get basic housing allowance. So basically, you know, once you go through and you do at least 3.5, 4 years, you qualify for post 9/11, which I used my GI Bill, went out there. And part of that is they pay for education. They also give you housing stipend. So because I was in New York, I was actually managing a home at a co-living space. I was managing it, paying like $700 in rent. So I was able to send my wife back whatever else I had left. Like it was like having a job without, you know. But I went to a Bunker Labs event, and I was just so stoked because I'm like, wait, there's a place for veterans to like come and talk about ideas. And then I learned these aren't ideas. They're actually having their own businesses. Like there's logos everywhere. It's a super cool thing. And in New York, everything's just like times 100 when it comes down to entrepreneurship. So then you got all these people, lawyers, all these people giving back their time to support. I'm like, crap, I don't have none of this in Vegas. So I came back to Vegas, and I would tell you this. I spoke with Hark, he's the COO now, and then Jake, he's one of the resource managers. But I spoke to them both, and I was like, I want to have a chapter here. What I got to do? I'm not giving up no kids, but I got like both my arms and legs if you want one of those. They was like, oh, well, Vegas is not on the map. I was like, it should be. So it took me 6 months for them to say, yeah, we're going to give a chapter. And then it took me another 6 months to find Dave. So I brought Dave in. And then like a year later, we were actually able to have our launch. So it was a process and a half, but it was a fight, and a good fight that we won because we didn't have the ecosystem, but Bunker Labs actually showed me that we can have something like that. And that's why I fought for it. Now we have a cohort of 9 people. We had 10 last go around. Now we got 9. So 19 people we just added to the community for our entrepreneurship.
Wow, that's amazing. Are there any similarities between all of the veteran entrepreneurs within Bunker Labs?
It's a lot of different. So first off, you see a ton of spouses, right? Now, my wife was a spouse, but she was very young and she was going to school. But typically a spouse has this thing of, I stay home, I take care of the kids, that's it, prepare for you go. But you meet people like Monica, she has spouse leave. You meet people like her who's building a full-fledged platform to help uplift businesses and others. There's a lady in South Carolina, she does candles. I was like, I thought Yankee was the only person that had good candles. No, she actually has great candles. I'm just like, crap, like, what's going on? Then you see like a bunch of people doing like Airbnb. My buddy Kevin has like he manages homes through Patriot Vacation Rentals. I'm like, once again, you can make money managing other people's property. Like you learn so much from these businesses. They are all different, and these people are actually taking that discipline of learning a job and doing it right and applying it to the entrepreneurial lifestyle. And I'm like, crap, I should have paid more attention when I was in the military, so I could have done that, and I would just have one direction. But being a jack of all trades has helped me help them as well. So I think as we go forward, every business is going to be different. The passions are all there, and you get to learn a lot. And really, like, I'm 80% disabled from the military. You actually see a lot of people that are disabled. And, like, entrepreneurship is the reason I'm saying. I tell everyone it's like I have real bad anxiety, borderline PTSD. But entrepreneurship, even though it's crazy, like I don't know what's gonna happen next. I have never had like a lapse where I fell into deep depression because of that. It kind of keeps me sane. So entrepreneurship, outside of the community that you get with Bunker, it helps inspire and it helps heal people.
And do you think you mentioned that you possess the jack of all traits from all the things you've done between the military, Bunker Labs, coding, and some of these other endeavors that we hadn't gone into yet? Did that make it an easy transition to the Dear Mama Fund? As somebody who's helping with a fund, you need to have not only an entrepreneurial mindset, but you have to have a builder mindset, and that comes with the coding. You need to have the investor mindset to know how to allocate capital. So was that transition smooth?
So I'm going to say it was really smooth, mostly because majority of the people on that squad are from either like Alicia, she's a visionary, but I met her through Bunker. She was actually the one going out and getting all the money for Bunker and fundraising. I was like, yo, I need to learn how to do that. And Alicia, she's like the big sister I never had. I don't have a big sister. So she legit, like without a second guess, I've actually tried to get in VC a couple times. But traditionally, you see people with degrees or, they had successful exits or they come with millions of dollars. And I'm just a young black male, they're like, you have nothing that we need to have you in this fund. She's like, no. I love you. You got these superpowers. You're great. You love people. Like, no brainer. You're part of the executive team. I'm sitting here like, wait, time out. Like, I thought I was going to have to do a lot more work to get into this. But Dear Mama, it's doing everything I wanted to do. The issue that we were trying to solve is there's, in this world that we live in, 4%, I'm going to be generous, 4% of VC funds goes to black founders. Last year, they did a study. And out of 31 startups, $114 million was raised. Out of that 31 startups, only 4% of the founders are black. And out of that, like a lot of money wasn't allocated. Those weren't like, $5 to $1 million with those startups. There were far less startups that they didn't mention that had less than 500,000. And some, minorities, period, don't get the dollars at all. Dear Mama wants to solve the problem of helping black and brown and women entrepreneurs find and secure money to get the opportunity to thrive. So when people tell you no, we're going to tell you yes. And it's called Dear Mama. I love how Alicia said it. It's called Dear Mama because moms are super forgiving. They 9 out of 10 won't tell you no unless you just like you really messed up and they're just going to tell you no for your own good. But other than that, they're not going to tell you no. And it's an environment that want to help, and we're spreading the wealth of putting dollars into black communities so we can help uplift ourselves. Because in this world, VCs don't have a lot of partners that are black. We don't have a lot of women that are VC partners. You don't have a lot of things. So we want to show people like we can do what everyone else is doing. Like we just need the opportunity. And so because I call it the underestimated. My buddy Ruben, he said that word, and I've been saying it ever since. Underestimated just truly means the opportunity has been presented. Alicia presented me with the opportunity, so I got and wear like a badge, and I'm out here trying to build an ecosystem around what I'm building. And that's truly like the transition was that easy because we share the same values. We're not in it to make millions. We're in it to solve problems.
And that's something that I found with entrepreneurship is that you gravitate to those who you share the same ideals with, even with the internet and having such I've an easier time connecting with people from the internet that I've never met in person than sometimes people in the real world. But that's because everyone is kind of conforming around one general idea. So it makes you easier to relate. It's up to you, what you were saying about Dear Mama. I do have 2 questions. We could tack it either way. One question is Dear Mama, are the operators of Dear Mama primarily minority based? Is it a very diverse group that helps manage this fund? And then the second part is, why do you think that the minorities only receive 4% of funds allocated from VCs?
So we do the first one. So we are a diverse group. I think if we're going to throw like colors into this mix, on our executive team, there's only one white person, so he's actually the minority. But we all have similar, walks of life. So I think it's like 40% of us are actually veterans. The other actually work with like high debt. So we want to be the Def Jam of VC, and there are a couple people that actually work with the Def Jam.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like we want to really grow that, and the diversity thing is we don't look at it like we look at it as you want to help solve the problem. But ironically, we just have a super diverse group. That's
Good.
cool.
Well, that's very important, is so you can have a wide array of ideas and backgrounds, because you never know what somebody went through.
Exactly.
But this is the problem that's plagued America and just society in general, is having one race or group, whether it's white men or white women or whichever it is, that governs one team. And so they kind of have the blinders on because they don't have anybody else telling them like, hey, this is the wrong way to go about it.
Exactly. And I think that answer question number 2, once again, I only can speak from like just my thoughts, but I just think like based off of just the stereotypes that have been formed in America, people always say there's a lot of change going on, but it's not. VC is one of these clubs where you really get an audience if you know someone. It's not. When I was looking for funding from business, I knocked on so many doors without getting any replies. But if you know someone, they may crack the door open for you, but they're not gonna let you in all the way. And being a Black founder, we don't get those audiences with the same people that we kind of want, and it sucks because you pass up on tons of good ideas. And we just, Starbucks is Starbucks. But I know a ton of dope Black coffee companies that really have great coffee, and yet they would never get the audiences that our Starbucks would get. Our Starbucks would not work and collab with them unless there's a need. So last year, we had so many tragedies happening in the Black community. Everyone wants to throw money to solve a problem, but that wasn't a problem. The problem is we get treated differently. They got this word, BIPOC. I hate it.
BIPOC?
Yeah.
Never heard that.
So it's a term for minorities that they use, and it's like a government term. It's a federal thing to do. So Black, Indian, and people of color, right? I don't like those terms because we're labeling everything. So if I'm going to put money into a BIPOC company because I need to, because someone said I didn't, I know what label to put the dollars down on and walk away from. You're not solving anything by throwing your money at it. The way that you solve the problems is you give everyone the same opportunity. Like, look at the company. Look at the mission, look at the passion behind it. Don't look at the color of someone's skin or their gender. Give people the same opportunity based on the business. And people look too much into it. I just had this conversation with a scout in Florida. And I was like, LinkedIn sucks because if I come to you and I say, hey, I want to hit you up, I want to have a conversation around my business, first thing you're going to do is go on LinkedIn and look and see where I went to school. You're already forming stereotypes once you start doing that. And that's what happens day in, day out when people look for funding, is people go and do research. Oh, well, when he was 15, he went to jail. We can't fund a company like that. But you don't know what they did from 15 on up. You don't know the impacts on that. Pitchingly out here, it's actually downtown. Like the guy, he went to jail, but guess what? He has a full business because of a problem he saw while he was inside that correlated to him having a really good solution. And, he's one of the his company is one of the best places to work at right now. I'm like, that's dope. And he's a Black man. I mean, it sucks that they want to label the fact that he's a Black man before they just acknowledge the solution he had. But still, he had that. But I never want to be in this world where people say, oh, a Black male, Mario Mitchell has done this. Don't ask me who I am or what color I am or where I'm from, because I'm from Mississippi. People know we have a vast system there. And people are quick to judge, but innovative things are even happening in Mississippi. My cousin's from there, but guess what? She founded a company. She's CTO. Amazon came and bought the company. She became the first Black female CTO of Amazon acquired company. And then Amazon Heart gave her a job. She became the first Black female applied science manager for Amazon. And now she's the first Black female tech evangelist for AI, right? And then she's building a $150 million tech district down in Mississippi, right down the street from Jackson State University, where we can bring technology back. And that's the issue, is no one's giving opportunities to those communities that have predominantly Black. We just keep them the way that they are until we need to touch on it. So we've been talked about because we're not putting money into the Black community. Here's some money.
That's been, unfortunately, that's been the route that society's gone, is that it ain't broken until there's a spotlight shed on it, where somebody dies or goes bankrupt or something horrible happens. But we know that same idea applied to health is the best way to go about it, right? Like procedural health and surgical applications, right? Like people who go in and get lipo after they've been enormous their entire life, is not as effective as if you just ate healthy and had preventive medicine. So that's the kind of thing is in order to prevent all these injustices and the economic divide, you have to go in and apply capital early where somebody has the right mentality so that you could grow out this blooming area, whether it's down in Mississippi or out here in Las Vegas. And then it blossoms into something that saves everyone on the way up and not just saving the few on the way down.
Preventative care? Like that's what we're doing. That's why I like DOs. DOs like, hey, you look at your diet. I actually have the super dope dentist, and she called me out the other day. Like I had a real bad infection, and a year prior she told me, "Oh, you got an infection. You come back and get this." I was like, whatever. Like it's not bothering me. Came back in so much pain, ready to cry, and she was like, "Now didn't I tell you a year ago? I had to go back and look and make sure I didn't miss anything. I left a note and told you about this." I was like, gee, do you not want my money or not? But I appreciate the honesty because once again, like in our community, you only can be bluntly honest. Like you messed up. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. Like this is your fault. Even though you're coming to spend money with me, I'm going to tell you how it is. And sometimes I don't get that. I had a business and my business partner never truly understood what I was going through being a young black male, being a dad of four, and like the sacrifices. Like, I couldn't just go out and do the things he did because I got treated differently. Like I don't get the same audiences he does. Even though we're business partners 50-50, he never sat down to understand the struggles I had as an entrepreneur. And that's why I always try to find people that can relate to me, because you can't have these conversations with people that don't look like you. It's just that tough. Trying to explain, I felt this way. I don't think that was the case. I just think you're thinking about it wrong. It's like, you don't know. Like I said, I felt this way. I didn't say that was a problem. This just is how I felt, and you can't provide comfort in a way that I understand. We can't work together, and that soured that business relationship because it was something that I couldn't deal with. I couldn't cope with, and I go to a lot of events here, and people just don't get when I say we need to have a community of diverse. I don't even use the word black anymore. I think diversity is key. I spoke to tons of entrepreneurs. We all have the same issue. If you have a different gender or shade of color in your skin, you already get the back door. And Vegas is one of these places where you don't get the same types of opportunities if you don't look a certain way. Like no matter how they sugarcoat it, we're a super diverse touristic place. UNLV is the most diverse college campus. When like we're in hospitality. Like who works in these industries in hospitality? Mm-hmm. Minorities. It's not like how they're painted to be. And I love Vegas, and I think it has so much potential. I just think they live in these old ways, and these old ways is what's truly stopping them from making the innovative changes that we have in the forefront. Yep. So I think if we come together as young progressives and we just stay open-minded the way we are, we will change. It might take a while, but change gonna come.
And there is movement happening. This is this exact topic is something we have chatted about multiple times on separate occasions of how do we bring the antiquated model of Las Vegas into the limelight of this digital revolution and the creator economy and all these other things that are kind of like upending this traditional physical world. Vegas operates in this like 4D model, right? Or a 3D model where everything you see in front of you is what you get. There isn't really like an application layer on top of much. For why, I have no idea, being like the entertainment capital world with billions of dollars that kind of just circulate within the strip. This is why we have things like Tech Alley and the blockchain meetup and funds and VCs moving down here, is that everyone's recognizing that Vegas has a massive amount of opportunity. This is something that most people reiterate on this show time and time again. It's a small city. Everyone's separated by 2 to 3 degrees of separation. You can reach anybody of status, whether it's of wealth or social status, fairly quickly, as long as you know maybe 1 or 2 people. Whereas other places like New York and LA, you'd never be able to reach some of these people that are very sought after. Vegas, that opportunity is here. It's diverse culturally. It's becoming diverse economically. That's the goal, to bridge off of tourism dependency. It's politically diverse. It's generally a purple state, swings back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. So we're just like this giant melting pot of everything that we need. We just kind of need to help fortify those structures that we're all building. But this is why I find this like such an interesting debate, is that is the issue here, I'll ask you this. Do you think the issue in Vegas right now is that it's generally governed by people who can't relate to the younger crowd? Do you think it's a capital allocation issue? Is it a mindset issue? Where do you stand on that?
I like the idea of it's the mom and pop syndrome. So they always assume they know what's best for the younger generation. Oh, this is what you should do. I'm like, you don't know a lick on technology to be providing any sort of input. But they just, like, people just assume because they have 25, 30 years on you, they know what's best. I'm like, in 2021, those ways died 40 years ago. This is the way that we're doing things now. So I think, like, that mom and pop syndrome also means that they're not open-minded enough to try new things. And like you said earlier, Vegas is like this melting pot. And a melting pot, like, you're putting different things in there to try it out. And yet we're not doing that. So we have these barriers that prevent us from moving forward. And that's going to always be an issue unless we get, I hate to say it, but more progressive, so more young people actually making some of the decisions for the directions we're going. Because if we don't do that, we're never going to progress and catch up with the times. Because Vegas has the potential. And yet we have so many people moving from California, but they're going to probably stay in their homes, hermit, and not want to do anything because they had so much freedom in California. Like, I love California. Like, if they didn't have the taxes and whatnot, I was probably still
exactly
there. So,
yeah, that's why we go out there, visit there. We love the energy.
Exactly.
They just have their own issues. And one of the main issues of Vegas, I think, is the temptation of and the nature of the city, where any day of the week you could go out and get laid or go gamble and feed some of these addictions, go to strip clubs, regular clubs, entertainment, anything like that. So I think the amount of capital that's generated on the Strip tends to stay on the Strip because those who work in it, and I was a culprit of this as well, going to make a decent amount of money and then going back out on the Strip and spending half of it just to go feed that itch or that inkling that you have that you need to satisfy, your sex drive or your flaunt your ego or all these other things that happen on the Strip. But
I've been blessed. I got married early, so
lucky for you. I'm not nowhere. I don't do this anymore after my 3-year sobriety streak that kind of snapped everything with FOMO and all of those other things that are kind of tied with going out and experiencing the Strip in the downtown area. But now I've noticed, and maybe it's just because I have the podcast where I talk with entrepreneurs, there's a strong urge with generally 35 or 40 and younger of wanting to do something with the city now that we've kind of been anointed this entertainment capital of the world, but now we have sports teams coming out here and other famous icons are moving out here. People are kind of saying putting the stamp of approval to Vegas. You guys are actually a community now. You're not just this sin city anymore. You're an actual city with people out here. And all of us, the younger generation are realizing hey, this is our time now to build the new future of Las Vegas, and that we get to be the leaders of the city in the future, where it's been kind of absent of culture over the last 100 years of its history.
Yeah. And I used to be one of those people that want to work with the city. And I realized the city doesn't push change. I think as an entrepreneur, we just assume working with the city, working with the state is going to give us more flair. But in reality, it's the communities that we're looking to help and serve that's going to give you that. If you're working, your whole business thrives on grants. You go inside the communities, you work with some nonprofits that already focus on that mission. The grants come with those partnerships. The city, yes, they speak great, they give great speeches on what they can accomplish and what they want to accomplish. But we're entrepreneurs, so what they can and what they want doesn't work for us. We need what we can do. We need some sort of direction where we're going to have this partnership concreted down. I don't want to chase you. And that's the issue that we also run into as entrepreneurs is we limit ourselves because we chase after certain relationships that we want to be a part of. But those relationships aren't the key to our success. It's the communities around. I always tell people, and I read this super cool thing, which I think is true, is have two best friends, which I do have two best friends. One, he's like me, education system failed him, so he never got into education whatsoever. He's into technology, but he's the one that tells me what I need to hear. Like, we were business partners, and like, he is straight tell me, like, you're being too nice about this. Or, he gives me that leg up. My other best friend is godfather of all four of my kids, right? So he's the one where if I need spiritual or anything like that, like, he's there for me. I mean, he's educated, sports psychology, all this other stuff. And it's also great to have those two things that help nail me down, because neither one of them are entrepreneurs, but they give me elements that I can't find in an entrepreneur, which is because we're always on the go. So having multiple best friends, or just having friends, period, can help you really overcome some of the issues that you're having living here in Vegas. Because Vegas, is, like you said, is very tempting. I don't gamble, but when I do go out and gamble, like me and my wife just went, I won. I was like, oh, crap. And if it wasn't for her, I would stood there all night till I lost. I probably lost everything I won.
It's that dopamine hit that you get.
I was over there like, oh, I brought us up. She lost everything. So I'm like, I brought us up. Like, we're staying. Then she's like, no, we're going home. I was like, you're no fun. No regrets, though. I don't carry cash unless I go to the casino. So you ever catch me with cash, probably because I won.
I'm the same exact way. Everything's completely digital. I'm just trying to immerse myself in the new economy that's emerging, which isn't to most people. It's not obvious but to people like me and you and those who are on this show and those who want to build something, it's the most obvious transition that ever since COVID happened and we were all locked away in our apartments and we're kind of forced to navigate the internet in whichever way helps us survive and communicate is here to stay. And it's only increasing. Remote working is here to stay, and it's increasing. Companies are cutting out the commercial space. Telehealth is emerging, and all of these other completely digital and remote services are just popping up left and right. And now the importance of content creation, how we are basically the new media. Exactly. Nobody's listening and watching CNN, Fox, MSNBC.
Oh, those still exist?
That's what I'm saying. I think the younger generations have realized that it's all a farce, that it's all entertainment. And we crave that authenticity because we've been through 2 recessions. We've been through all of these other just tremendous experiences in life and all of these like sad things with like 9/11 and most of us the majority of the population growing up in the 2008 financial crisis, almost losing everything and having to survive. And we don't want the fake stuff anymore. And you can't hide behind your business as most CEOs used to. Before smartphones and before the internet, you just acknowledged Coca-Cola as Coca-Cola. You didn't think about who are the people behind Coca-Cola. But now everyone wants to know who's operating that business. What's the social impact? What does the CEO think on certain ideas? And yeah, maybe social signaling and some of these other things have extended a little bit farther than they need to be. But we want to know every little detail about every little business, every little person, because that comes down to our decision making.
Yeah, and speaking of the news thing, I mean, have you ever heard of Robert Smith?
No, I'm not familiar.
But Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Right? So Robert Smith is one of America's black billionaires. And I don't care about all the other bad things they try to find about tax issues he had. But the biggest thing that he's done, the reason why I want to shake his hand is last year, right at the head of the pandemic, he paid for a graduating class at historical black college, paid for all their tuition because he knew coming out of school with this pandemic, there weren't going to be any chances of them getting a job right away. College loans don't care about, like whether you're working or not, you got to make that payment or else they're docking on your credit. He actually was like, I want to save parents the headache. I want to give these kids a fighting chance, paying for all their tuition. News outlets didn't cover that part. They covered when he didn't pay his taxes or something like that. They didn't cover him paying for all this education. But, they cover Mark Zuckerberg and he's going to speak in front of Congress and all this other stuff. I'm like, we always try to find the bad for entertainment. But I really think that we should always look for the good that's going on out there, too. Because one thing I want to do is that, like, I ever make enough money to go and pay for a graduating class. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why I chose to go to the military is because my mom couldn't afford to, like, help me go to college. Like, that was the the ability to dream. And I just learned about like why dreams make you vulnerable. Once again, going back to Dear Mama, Alicia said this thing where someone asked, like, hey, what was your dream growing up? And like, you know, and then the follow-on is, are you living it? And I'm like, that is a sucky question to ask, because where I come from, dreams aren't made possible. Dreams aren't something that we want to talk about, because it's also a hard thing, because we know we couldn't do it. Like, you just put that stamp of, I want to become president of the United States. Well, yeah, first I got to be 35. In certain neighborhoods, kids don't live to be that old, you know? So it sucks to know that dreams aren't made possible everywhere. And I'm like, how can I help solve the problem? And I know I went way back, but that's the whole point of like what the Dear Mama Fund does for me. And like, no matter what, we're going to have conversations after this. You can always hear me talk about the things that I'm doing, like dreams made possible. When I say Scout, that's what I want to call our Scout program, Dreams Made Possible. And it's like DMP, so it's also Dear Mama Fund. But, you know, Dreams Made Possible is because me and you going to have a conversation. We can go outside the store right now. You can say, hey, I want to go meet, I don't know, Steve Wynn. You got a better chance of meeting him than I do, right? And it has nothing to do with that. But my dream is to do that. You just might want to go meet him. And, you know, it's not fair. But using the opportunity of, we have a Scout program that would get you this money you need to really start your journey in entrepreneurship, that's something that we want to give to other individuals, because we don't have a friends and family around that we can go ask. I couldn't ask my friends and family for money. People were like, oh, just do friends and family. Well, what friends and family? My mom, she manages gas station. She works very hard for what she does. I think she overcommits. She has the ability to do way more. Just like my mother-in-law, they both work hard, but they're both women and they're both people of color. And they don't get the opportunities that anyone else has. Like, they both can be running things. That's how hard they work. 40 hours maximum or minimum. They're putting like 80 a week. And they're on salary, so they don't get paid the extra hours. And that's when, like, y'all should just start your own companies, because, like, if you're going to put that kind of time into someone else and make them money and they don't recognize it, it's time for you to start your own thing. And that fear, and we can't reverse engineer this. I had the opportunity to learn entrepreneurship, right? Like, 5 years, I had this freedom because I'm fearless. My mom, taking care of 3 kids by herself, she gave up on her dreams of doing anything she wanted to do. She has 2 bachelor's degrees. And yet, because she had to work at places to make money to survive, she doesn't have work experience. I just think society is, like, people go to school, but I think we should do away with that whole system. It's
100% an antiquated model, which, I don't know whether they're purposely repressing information and knowledge so that you become indoctrinated to run out your time to get paid in a linear fashion. There's a lot of conspiracies that surround that idea, but entrepreneurship is definitely on the rise. And, you know, speaking of like entrepreneurship and Black entrepreneurs, I've seen this transition recently, maybe in the last like 4 to 5 years, of Black athletes diving into entrepreneurship hardcore, where for a long time, whether it was the media only covering bad antics of Black athletes going out, spending their money, gold chains, whatever, living lavishly, now a lot of them are leading investing rounds that I'm seeing. And Kobe Bryant was actually a pretty prominent person in this domain. But now you see like LeBron does this, and Steph Curry and all these other athletes. And I think it's very encouraging, because a lot of the Black youth look up to these athletes. And if they see them being entrepreneurial and building schools like LeBron James is, then it's only going to encourage them to follow that path.
Yeah, I really like Jay-Z. Like, Jay-Z, you listen to half his songs, it's all about him giving you the knowledge of how he got to where he's at. My mentor, so when I was in high school, I'm not going to say I was a bad apple. I'm going to say that I had behavior issues. But I have a mentor. He's been my mentor for the last, 11, 12 years. And he still mentors young Black kids. And we just had a conversation yesterday about how the system in Minneapolis is giving up on, like, the school system period, pulling all the school police out. Like, they have more shootings. He even made the assumption, like, he's like, yo, your 7-year-old son can read better than most of these kids graduating out of school. I was like, oh, that's a problem. But as I told him, the real issue is, like, we got all these nonprofits, but they're not solving the problem. They're Band-Aids. I said we need to go in and teach them skills. I also have a dream, just like LeBron James School. I want to have a school that teaches young, like minority kids, like that don't have that chance in society. This is how you can start your own business at 14, 15, 16 years old. Once again, you brought up another point that there are, very successful influencers out there in the world. Not everyone has the ability to go out there and buy products to review. Not everyone has a smartphone that has a good camera. So it's still like society still hasn't figured out how to basically create a utopia where people have the same opportunities. And colleges, like you said, it literally limits people. Like Harvard, oh, you went to Ivy League school? Oh, you're going to make something of yourself. That's not the case. This guy, Leslie, Harvard grad, Yale grad, PhD, he straight told me how one people he graduated with, they both want to start businesses. This guy was able to do a friends and family raise like $3 million. Leslie didn't have a friends and family, so he has to bootstrap everything. He has a really cool idea, and people will never know because people from Yale, they can raise $3 million will always top the people that want to work harder and put that struggle. And he loves what he does, and he got the degree, so people take him more serious. But I'm like, that sucks that even when you get that piece of paper, people still won't take you serious because of where you came from. And, colleges, shame on them. They should also know that. Like my wife, she went to school, super smart, graduated honors out here. And I'm just like, what was the point? I'm successful and I never went to college. I took a class, speech, very, very helpful. But other than that, and I aced it. I took a psychology class I never even went to, got an A. My wife said, how did you get that? I was like, I just listened from the one time I went. And then I got the A. I don't know. But, it's all about what you can put into it. I would hear kids when we went to parties down in UCSB. They're like, oh, I failed this quarter, but my parents are just going to pay for me to retake it. I'm like, aren't you lucky? Like my wife fails. We stuck because we can't afford for her to just be, retaking classes. So she has to be great the first time around or take the grade and settle with it. So I think opportunities like for schools, I love YouTube. I call it YouTube University. Yep. You want to go to school? Go to YouTube. You can literally change your major and not have it cost you anything. And that's why I learned a lot of my skills. I wanted to go learn how to make mixology. YouTube. Like I watch all the videos, barfly, everything. I'm at home. I have a full bar. I'm mixing drinks. And I'm not no pro. You're not going to see me throwing bottles and whatnot in the air. But YouTube has taught me a lot. Even getting into investment into the VC world. I didn't go to school for it. It's not something that's taught to me as a young kid. But YouTube has helped me learn a thing or two and surround myself around those people that gave me the opportunity. So I think, once again, if universities didn't cost so much and it made it more affordable, then I would say, school is the right path to go if you want to get into that kind of thing. But it's just a dream that most people can't achieve. I wanted to be a doctor once. Too old now.
Yeah, society is reformatting itself from the top-down approach to the bottom-up approach. That's like the prime example is YouTube, where there's millions of channels who cover probably millions of different topics, from entertainment to education, comedy, documentaries, and so forth. And these are all just people like me or you who just have a camera and they want to change something in the world. And then from there, they build existing communities. And then from those communities, they build a business on top of that. And I see this becoming more and more popular over time. Some of the early YouTubers were able to do that. Even people like Joe Rogan, who just catapulted themselves to the top of the podcasting game. And to have your voice, to have 10 million people per podcast listening, like that's an astronomical reach that extends farther than some of these channels like Fox and MSNBC and CNN. So we are on the digital frontier of how society is going to function in the near future. I think by the end of this decade, it's going to be so unrecognizable to some of the older generations that they're going to have to do nothing but step down and hand over the reins.
You said earlier, the older generation kind of hates some of the younger generation because they're like, oh, they're doing this influencer stuff or they got it too easy. I'm like, the older generation could have got it on Bitcoin when it was like worth nothing. Like I was young, just from the military. I couldn't capitalize on that because I was kind of shut off from the world. But once again, they had the opportunity to be rich and they missed their moment because they weren't open-minded enough to give it a try. I met a guy and he's like, yeah, I tried to mine for pizza. I just wanted one slice. And I'm like, yo, it cost me 20 tokens. I was like, how much were these things worth back then? And he's like, yeah, I never got that pizza, but I cashed out and I made millions. I was like, man, I would love to have been your age, like back then, and been able to like buy some Bitcoin, just buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, man, curiosity is going to carry you into some sort of success. That's
true.
That's, to me, that is the most important trait somebody can possess, is intellectual curiosity. And people like Naval and some of the thought leaders hammer this point down consistently. We are coming up on an hour, though. I got one final question for you before we get out of here. What does Las Vegas mean to you?
Las Vegas, I must be honest, it's my launching pad. This is where I went from being Mario, the guy in the military, to being Mario, this disruptor. Like, people know who I am. I get phone calls. It really helped shape me to who I am today. So it gave me my chance, even though it's kind of broken in its own way. It gave me that voice, and I'm able to go out here and use my voice and really, catapult it to where I want it to be. And it truly helps me define who I want to be day in, day out.
That's exactly right on point. Where do I send all the listeners and those watching on YouTube to follow you along your journey, or any other links you'd like to mention?
So LinkedIn, I know some people don't like LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, you always see the smiling face if you're looking at it. And then, so Mario Mitchell on LinkedIn. And then I actually trying to get more into Instagram. So Mario Mitchell 78 is my Insta. And then, really, like, you can find me on Dear Mama. So Mario at dearmamafund.com. I talk to everyone. That's why we're calling ourselves a Def Jam VC. We talk to anybody. So that's the 3 that you can kind of find me at. I'm always down to meet new people. I'm a very friendly person, and I like bourbon. So old fashioned is my jam.
Ooh, we send that out there. Make sure you guys follow Mario on his adventure. We'll probably do this again sometime in the future. Thank you for coming on. We've been trying to do this and organize this for a few months now. We're both busy entrepreneurs, and we got to shed some light on everything that's happening in Vegas and the future. And those are my favorite conversations. So thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time.